Thank you all for gathering here today at Hillside Memorial Park to remember and honor the life of Eleanor Dorin. Before we begin, I'd like to remind everyone to please take a moment and turn off or silence your cell phones if you haven't already done so. Thank you so much. To begin the service today, we are going to have a moment of silence and witness Eleanor's casket being laid to rest. Before we do so, if anyone would like to take part in the mitzvah of placing a little bit of earth on top of her casket, I will assist you in doing so, so please come forward if you would like to do that. Officiating Eleanor's service is Rabbi Alan Lackman.
As you sit here, you hear the sound of a busy freeway, and also you hear the beautiful sounds of, and the serenity sounds of water. And the water reminds us of the continuity of life, and this water, I understand, recycles, and life recycles, and the good memories recycle. And as you look at the collage of pictures, I see many of you are here, and some of you were younger when these pictures were taken. And it represents life and the different stages of life. And being here today is part of the mitzvah of accompanying our loved ones to their final resting place. Part of that also is sending them off with a bit of earth, and with a flower or two in the colors that she liked. Today, later on in the service, I'll ask for some of you to share memories of Eleanor. And today is a day not to bemoan her death, but to be grateful for her life. And life is a gift given into our temporary keeping. What we do with it can be inspired by those who went before us. And hopefully, if we do wonderful things, those people who are left behind will encourage their followers. So as we have grandchildren here, we also have great-grandchildren here as well, and they could see what the different generations did with their lives and what in fact they're going to do with it. Esainai al harim me'ayin yavo ezri me'im Adonai osei shamayim v'aretz. We lift our eyes into the hills. From where does our help come? May our help come from God, who's made both the heaven and the earth. That force does neither sleep nor slumber. May that force be a shade upon thy right hand. May it not smite us by day nor the moon by night. May God watch over all of us as we go out and come into life from this time forth and forevermore. Ecclesiastes said life wasn't always going to be fun. Good times don't last long enough. Miserable times, thank God, don't last forever. But there are times and seasons for everything that's about to happen to us. He wrote, there's a time to be born, and that's ultimately followed by a time to die, a time to plant, a time to uproot, a time to tear down, and a time to build up. But now is a time for some tears, and you must mitigate them with happy memories. Now is a time for grief, and you must be encouraged to focus on your own lives and to make them better and to bring pride, or as they say, nachas, to Eleanor. For everything there is a season. There's a time for every experience under the heavens. And time's important, because with the rising of the sun and the going down of the sun, there goes another day. In the beginning of the year, when it ends, Eleanor will be in your thoughts. When you're weary and in need of strength, may you remember her courage, her love, her guidance, her warmth. And when you have joys that you yearn to share, may you feel that she somehow is spiritually there, sharing them with you. Because as long as all of you live, she lives, because she's part of what many of you have become. And that's through the lessons of life that she taught you, not on the end of a finger, but by her example. And some of you are even more blessed with her RNA and DNA, and that you take with you, and it's part of what you've become. In a few hours, we have the observance of Shabbat, or the Sabbath. And that's a day of rest, and not a day of mourning. And although you don't stop missing Eleanor and feeling her absence, you are supposed to step back and look at your own life and the wonderment of the things that you can do. You know, today is probably the best day of the week so far. Warmest, moderate temperature, the sun is out. And when you leave here today, I hope you have wonderful thoughts about Eleanor's life and how you interacted with her. And although the great-grandchildren interacted with her all their life, and you as her children interacted with her all her life, as children you see her differently than the great-grandchildren do. And so these are the times in which you share some of the thoughts and the memories and the occurrences. So I'm going to begin now with great-grandson Jordan to come up and share some thoughts with us.
Hi, I'm Jordan. Obviously all of you know that, as we're all very close. Great-Grandma Elle. She truly was a great-grandma. From her kind soul, her sweet voice, her incredible cooking, her never-ending love, and her persistent spirit. Not many people get the opportunity to meet their great-grandparents, let alone be old enough to have a conversation or understand their relationship with them. I am blessed to have been able to do that for 17 years of my life. No matter the home she was in, the holiday we were celebrating, or the people present, Grandma Elle continued to live with and love this amazing and large family that she helped build. There is a picture of Grandma Elle, Grandma Iris, Mom, and Jalen that reminds me of the incredible blessing that Grandma's life was, because it shows the 4 generations of Dorin women all together in one place. This family that she built all together around her is a testament to her incredible spirit and enveloping aura. I will never forget performing little plays for Grandma Elle in her old Santa Monica home, visiting her and Grandma Iris in the Porter Ranch apartment, seeing her at the Hanukkah celebration at Har's house, and eating as many matzo ball soups as I could, or talking to her in her room at the Royale. She will forever be with all of us because she touched all of our souls in one way or another. And while this is a sad day, it is also a celebration of an incredible life, of an incredible woman and person, my great-grandma Elle. Thank you.
Yeah, that was beautiful, Jordan. It's gonna be hard to follow that, but give me a moment to compose myself. My entire life, I've been always given a common compliment that I'm so nice. I'm always told, you're so nice, you're so kind. I never really knew how to reply to that other than say thank you. I realize now my kindness came from my dad, being raised with him, and he got it from Grandma Elle. To always treat people the way that you would want to be treated, be kind as opposed to being mean and negative. It seems like a rarity these days somehow, but I'm so lucky and blessed to be raised by such kind and nice hearted people. It's all I've ever known, and I couldn't have been asked to be raised in a better environment than that. And I just realized now how rare that upbringing is, and that no matter the circumstances, no matter how rough life gets, you be kind, and kindness will come to you and come around you. And Grandma emanated that throughout her life, no matter what the situation was. She was always very positive. You would never know if anything it was troubling her. It was just always a positive spirit. And the most solid proof that I have of that is with Grandma Elle's famous chocolate chip cake. It was every family gathering. It was a favorite thing, was that chocolate chip cake, and we'd all gather around and eat it and enjoy it. It was the same consistent chocolate cake every single time. Just like she was the same and consistent and kind every single time you saw her. She did, in her older age, not be able to cook that anymore. She passed that recipe on to Dad. I think she also passed it on to Stephanie. And you guys cooked the cake as delicious as it would be, and you guys knew it was just not the same. It just wasn't Grandma Elle's cake. And it was almost perfect, but it just wasn't by Grandma Elle's hand. And, sorry, I lost my place a little bit, but it's just one of those memories that you can kind of eat and consume, a memory of that consistency of that chocolate chip cake. And it was just so humbling, honestly, to have that memory of her, of something that I'll be missing. And I just think back on the legacy that she leaves behind is a lot to do with that cake that she's so famous for. She spread her knowledge to live her life with kindness. She raised her children, Harlan and Iris, with that same Eleanor wisdom. He spread that to us, to me, to Ryan, to Dennis, to Stephanie, to Greg, and on to Jaden and Jalen. And that legacy will live on forever, just like that recipe of that chocolate cake. And even though it's a little bit different, it'll always have that spirit that Grandma Elle spread throughout her life to all of us. And I am also happy to inform you all that I have that recipe for that chocolate cake. I will also be making that and spreading that cake throughout my life as long as I can. And we did just lose a true patriarch to our family, or matriarch. But not only in this physical world, she's with us every time we enjoy that cake and every time that we think of her. And I think that we're truly lucky to have everything that she cooked, not only that cake, but like Jordan said, the matzo ball soup and every recipe that she had. And as much as we would like to strive to be that great, there will only be one Grandma Elle. And miss her terribly. Thank you.
Hello. Well, it's a beautiful day for Grandma. Oh. Reminds me of the walks in Palisades Park, right? We used to take with her little gang. She always surrounded herself with really good people. These, you guys are amazing. If I knew kids were gonna grow up that amazing, I probably would have had a couple myself by now. Jordan, that was sensational, and Tracy, your words really moved me. I wrote all this stuff, but I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get through it, but just driving over here with my mom today, I was reminded of the many times we drove from out from the valley, 101 to the 405 south, and we would pass that, what was it back then, that hotel, the Cylinder Hotel? What was it? What? Yeah, the Holiday Inn, thank you. That was always the sign to me that Grandma's house was close. And now there's the Getty there, of course, and all that. And then I used to come here with Grandma Elle, and we would visit Grandpa Phil and Grandma Anna's graves as a little kid. I was just talking to my mom about that. I was like, Mom, I think I went to the cemetery a lot as a kid. Why did I go to the cemetery so much? Anyway, I wrote a little letter to Grandma Elle because, I don't know, that's just how it came out. And also my lovely sister reminded me about all the letters I was writing her in my travels. And thank you, Rabbi, for your kind words. Listening to that water is helping me. And thanks, Uncle Har, for letting me say some words too. And Mom. Okay, we can do this. Happened so fast, right? That's what I also just said to my mom. Didn't think this would come so soon, even though we know she lived a long, happy life. Dear Grandma Elle, there was an amazing sunset just the other night. The sky was full with subtle pastels of yellows, oranges, pinks. It was big and open, stretching out, boundless. One of those where it seems like you can actually feel the sky go on forever and ever. Then, as the sun's orb dipped to the horizon, the colors and the light transformed, the subdued pastels morphing into intensified neons. bright yellows, deep glowing reds. It was like a symphony of the sky, Grandma. And I thought of you. And how maybe sometimes the best expressions of our love are not always through our own words, but mirrored back to us in nature. Indeed, there are some things that are hard to put into words, limited and clunky as they can be. Some things just feel too big for words to contain, like speaking about you now. But if I could put into words what you mean to me, I might say something like, classic, a true legend, the absolute best grandma ever. I'd mention something about how I always felt comforted by your sweet, kind presence, and how everything just seemed okay and better when you were near. Of course, I'd have to talk about your infectious laughter that bubbled up, catching and lifting everyone around up into its giddy ascent. And how even the way you would answer the phone was magical, saying, "Hello," in rising tones, all at once excited and inquisitive, ready for the next adventure, full of love and joy. I could say something about how you were so much more than just grandma to me. Of course, you played that sacred role perfectly, to a T. But I realize now, too, that you were one of my very first ever true friends. You taught me, as a shy, timid boy, with your sweet smile that always shone clear through your eyes, that life is fun and precious, that it's safe to trust, and that I'm cared for and so very loved. I might also express how you always treated all of your beloved grand and great-grandkids with so much kindness, pampering us with piles of presents, cooking us the most amazing meals and treats ever, like your delicious chocolate chip cake, powdery on top, fluffy all the way through with the chocolate chips settled just so at the bottom, leaving you with those last satisfying bites of sweet, chunky morsels. And how you were living proof of the fact that it's not what we do, but how we do it, that's of utmost importance. There was also the French toast you'd make, soaked and cooked to perfection, smothered in sweet mapley syrup, the fried matzah with jam on top, a favorite of my big sis Steph's. The kugel, oh my God, the kugel, best thing ever. Top layer of toasted cornflakes smothered with cinnamon and sugar, atop the noodles, giving way to warm, moist layers filled with sweet, gooey clumps of cheeses and creams. The golden raisins nestled within, releasing a tangy zing and a juicy wave of deliciousness at every bite. You can tell I miss it, right? And that's just a few of the sweeter treats. Don't even get me started on the savory. Even something as seemingly ordinary as scrambled eggs, when under your skillful hands and delicate gaze, became elevated to the extraordinary. And I love just watching you work. Focused love in action. How you cook it patiently, the little ripples and waves of liquid flowing as you lift and tilt the pan, the egg slowly forming shape over the heat. Always coming out divinely fluffy, golden yellowy goodness, exquisitely tasty, especially with toasted butter, onion bagel on the side. And of course, there was much more than scrambled eggs. There was the savory kugel too, favorite of Ryan's. And the mouth-watering meats, briskets, beautifully seasoned with a tenderness unparalleled. The roast chickens, the turkeys impeccably basted. Whatever you cooked, it always had your signature trifecta of perfection in looks, taste, and texture. As I'm reading this, I'm amazed I went vegetarian for so long. But I came back before. And of course, I can't forget the matzo ball soup. That golden brown elixir filled with the tastiest ever chunks of carrots and celery, strings of parsnips, and those huge cloud-like off-white orbs, beautifully soft and soaked chock full of that most scrumptious savory broth. It would all make your eyes roll back in delight, your mouth rejoice at its good fortune, your heart and body soothed, happy, satiated. I could also talk about the best visits and sleepovers ever at Grandma Elle's, playing hide and seek in the closet, putting on skits with Steph and Ryan, and all the grand holiday gatherings at the house on Sycamore Road. That magical house, moved on a truck from Mar Vista, propped up on stilts along a Santa Monica hillside, with Pong and even an ice cream parlor upstairs. And as Tracy just reminded me earlier, that old organ that everyone wanted Ryan to play all the time. Stained glass doors and those big round upholstered swivelly chairs that would make a clicking sound when you reached the end of one turn just before whipping you back round to the other side. And how free and mesmerized I felt collecting spiral shells in the backyard among the dirt, the dewy green grass, yellow-white flowers. Knowing, Grandma, you were there just behind watching on made it feel so fun and safe to explore. It truly was a little kid's wonderland come to life. I might talk about the sweet comfort in your presence, the loving gaze in your eyes, how you were the wind beneath our wings, giving us all lift to rise, and about how you were such an essential puzzle piece for all of us, connecting everyone, all our hearts together. Because no matter how different our views and lives, we could all always agree on one fundamental thing: Elle's the greatest. And that's how you taught us about the most important things of life. If I could put into words what it means now that you're gone, I might say something like brokenhearted, depthless sadness, irreplaceable loss. Something about how this world would truly never be the same without you in it. About how I wish we had just one more time together, sit next to you to smile and laugh, talk about the ways of the world, and nothing at all in particular. And maybe I also mention those words they say a lot at funerals about how it's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. And how that's so true, and also funny in a way, the way we use language sometimes. For although we may now have lost your physical presence to us, we have not lost at all. In fact, on the contrary, we've won so very much. We're all so fortunate to have known you and to have felt firsthand the big warm embrace of your generous, genuine love. To have known such a fine model, an example of how graceful and lovely a human being can be. With all that we've gained from knowing you, from being blessed with your presence in our lives, I, for one, have so much hope for the future of what's yet to come. Just imagine what fine adult men and women, young Jordan and Jalen, will continue to grow into from the gifts of having known their beloved great-grandma Elle, to mention just a couple beautiful examples. Almost done, I promise. And finally, if I could put into words how to say goodbye to you. But those words I just can't seem to find right now. Sometimes the only real words are tears. And there's nothing else to do but to let the deep heart speak in its native tongue, where no translation is needed because all hearts know that language fluently. And when we can manage to find our way to that place where mind is quiet and heart is still, I know we'll find you and feel you there, Grandma. And so, Grandma Elle, as you now venture on, taking your place into the great mystery, I don't know exactly where you go, but I know and I trust that whatever forces of amazingness and divinity conspired to create one as wonderful and unforgettable as you surely must be rejoicing at your return must be greeting you with the most open arms. And I imagine a truly remarkable divine celebration at your blessed homecoming. And I know my own beloved great-grandma Anna and great-grandpa Phil, who, believe me when I tell you, have been close in my heart and mind for my entire life, must be truly overjoyed to reunite once again with their beloved, beautiful angel of a daughter. One last thing in closing. In all my travels I've been fortunate to take around the world, one thing I've often found is that non-native English speakers oftentimes express things in a delightful and refreshing way. In the best of cases, this helps us to look at things that have become usual and commonplace and see them in new ways. As such, my and Steph's wonderful stepmother, Vivian, of French-Egyptian descent, left me a beautiful message the other day before we had a chance to speak. She expressed her sadness at the loss, how there really were no words, how it's such a hard thing. And then of our dear Elle, she said, and I quote, "She was a very lovely woman, and I'm happy I got to meet her. And her smile is in my face, and that's how I want to keep it." Her smile is in my face. I just absolutely love and adore that expression, and that's just how I want to keep it too. So I invite us all in the coming days, months, and years to always keep our beloved Elle's smile in our faces, and to know and remember that she's ever present within our hearts. Thank you so much. I love you, Grandma.
Well, I have to start with another food story. I've been lucky to have some of my good friends also get to know Grandma Elle. And my dear friend Aaron, sent me a nice message this morning, reminding me of a story of his first Passover at ours house. And my friend Brian was also there. And at the time, Brian and Aaron were vegetarians. And when the brisket came around, Brian helped himself to a huge piece. And Aaron said, "Brian, I thought you were a vegetarian." And Brian said, "Not when Elle's brisket is on the table." Aaron also had some brisket, meat for the first time, he said, in years, and he still remembers how great it was. I only have a couple things I'd like to say. I just want to reminisce for a moment about more recent times, visiting Grandma Elle at the nursing home, spending Sunday afternoons there as often as I could, watching football games. Somehow, in her later years, she became a big football fan. She didn't necessarily know who was playing or who won, but it was fun to watch. And she liked to tell me stories about growing up in Houston, especially about school. She had a lot of fond memories when she was young about school and how much she loved school and how good she was in her subjects, especially math, she would tell me. And she would always finish her work first and then go and help the other students complete their work, and would often stay after school with the teacher, spend time with the teacher helping in the classroom, She just really loved being in school. And I think that's something she passed down to me because I have those fond memories, and perhaps some of you do, being young in school and enjoying being there. So I was thinking about the name Elle. Of course, her name is Eleanor, but everyone called her Elle. What does that mean? Well, it turns out El is a very ancient word for God. And people that have El in their name means they're with God. Like the angels, Michael, Gabriel, even one of the words for God in the Torah, Elohim, begins with El. And I couldn't help thinking, and I think I might have mentioned this to Greg, that El really, in her spirit, embodied what's good, what comes from God. I think she was an angel on this earth. And I think that we are all truly blessed to have had her in our lives for so long and have had so many good years with her. She was a great gift. And lucky for us, she had two wonderful children who are both angels on this earth, two of the nicest, kindest people I know. My father Harlan and my Aunt Iris are that living spirit from Grandma Elle. And I'm very thankful for that. And I'm going to miss her very much. Thank you.
My first memory of meeting Elle was her lovely smile, her gentle nature, her love of giving through cooking and baking. She never wanted anyone to feel forgotten. Elle had a yearly calendar with everybody's birthday, anniversary, and she never missed an occasion to send a personal hand-picked card. She never came empty-handed to family events, and all eyes were on her for what baked goodies Elle was offering. Her life has taught me so much of why we are on this earth. What I've learned from Elle is it's not how big we are in life, or how we are admired, or how successful we are. Rather, Elle taught me to look inside myself and find peace within who I am. If we generally want to make a difference, Elle is an example of how she led a purposeful life with meaning. She left this world with her love and kindness and love and kindness, and touched my life in her own quiet way. May you now rest peacefully, Elle. With all my love, your daughter-in-law, Diane.
I'm not your most comfortable public speaker here, but I'll try to follow in everybody's path here. There is nothing like the love between a grandma and her grandchild. And the love that I received from Grandma Elle was immeasurable. Ever since I was a little girl, I always felt a special connection to her. Whether it was just seeing her face light up with that beautiful smile when we would come for a visit, or the joy she felt when she had prepared our favorite foods for us, and she would watch us eat until our heart's content. She was the definition of what a grandma is supposed to be. I have so many fond memories of her and all the fun things we did together. As some things that my brother mentioned, when we were young, myself and Ryan playing in the house on Sycamore, going out to eat, and of course lots of shopping trips with me. There is a particular time in my life that really stands out the most to me, and that is when I was attending college classes for interior design, and they were held on 3rd Street Promenade, which was just blocks away from Elle's condo. I had a night class that went till 10 p.m., so once a week I would go to her place for dinner and then head to my class and return after class to spend the night. The next morning I would always awake and she would have my favorite breakfast of oatmeal prepared and waiting for me. It was our time to talk and reflect on it was our time to be together, just the two of us. I always reflect on that time we had together. It meant the world to me. I will always be grateful that she was with us for 96 years and she got to witness so many wonderful things, like watching me grow up to seeing me get married and being there when both her great grandkids were born. She had a beautiful relationship with Jordan and Jalen, and for her to have been in their life for 12 and 17 years is a gift in itself. She will forever be in my heart and all of our hearts. Thank you.
A beautiful and warm smile, a kind and loving heart, and a very sweet soul and spirit. That was my precious mom, Eleanor Beverly Dorin, who was the most giving and caring person I ever knew. And, by the grace of God, I was blessed enough to be her daughter. Mom was born on February 27th, 1924 in Houston, Texas, by Anna and Phil Baccarat. She had a wonderful big sister, Dorothy, and years later, her little brother Charles was born. When I was a little girl, Mom spoke often of her very large family and all the wonderful relatives that she grew up with and loved dearly in Texas. As time went by, Mom married and they settled in Santa Monica, California, where I was born in 1946. Only 14 months later, my adorable brother Harlan came along. Our childhood was carefree and easygoing. Mom took enormous pride in caring for our home and her family. We were everything she adored and valued most in her life. And we felt surrounded by her warmth and affection that flowed throughout our home. Mom was passionate and devoted to giving us a life with a solid foundation, strong traditions, and lots of love, not to mention all the incredible meals she would make each day. She was an amazing role model, showing us the rewards of being kind, sympathetic, and compassionate toward others. When I turned 16 years old, I took the opportunity to go to Houston, Texas, to meet all of the amazing relatives she had told me about through the years. It was a very memorable experience and a glimpse into Mom and her childhood days. As the years went by and I married and gave birth to my own children, my wonderful Stephanie and Greg, I began to realize how blessed I was to have learned so many valuable and important lessons from Mom. By her example, she taught me that common courtesy, genuine empathy, listening to others with your whole heart, and being loyal and dependable were all good qualities to live by. I never saw a day that Mom didn't wake up with gratitude and joy in her heart for the good life she had and her blessings. Even though at times she faced many challenges of her own, with steadfast determination and lots of courage, she always prevailed through the difficult days. And no matter what, continued to have that lovely smile on her face. Mom was an extraordinary grandma and great-grandma to Stephanie, Rob, Ryan, Greg, Tracy, Dennis, Jordan, Jalen, Danielle, Tal, Keith, Ava, and Bella. Her heart was bursting with pride and joy whenever they were with her. And of course, we all really loved it, as you've heard, when we knew she was in the kitchen for hours making her delicious matzo ball soup, or her fantastic chocolate chip cake, or her yummy kugels. Each recipe was filled with a special touch of love. When Mom was 80, she received another magnificent gift to celebrate. Her first great-grandchild, Jordan Matthew, was born. Mom was over the moon with happiness. Then a few years later came our second little miracle, Jalen Mackenzie. This was a whole new chapter in Mom's life that she enjoyed for 17 years. During this week, we have received so many heartfelt messages from family and friends expressing their fond memories of Mom. She touched so many people with her gentle and caring ways, always making everyone feel cherished and special because she only saw the good in humanity. Because Mom was my hero, my confidant, and my best friend, I'm so grateful and blessed for the 74 years of memories we made together. Whether we were celebrating a special occasion with the family, going to the movies together, or spending fun times with her two best friends, Dorothy and Millie, she would embrace every moment with laughter and joy in her heart. In closing, I want to say thank you, Mom, for being the brightest light, shining over us and encircling our family with the gift of harmony, tranquility, unwavering support, and unconditional love. Your beautiful legacy will be forever engraved in our hearts, and you will be missed every single day of our lives. I love you.
I'd like to thank all the folks on Zoom who, all family, cousins, friends, who joined us today and to pay tribute to my mom, Al. I am so fortunate to have lived 73 years of my life with the honor, the privilege, and the blessing to call Elle my mom. Being the son of Elle gave me a remarkable role model to aspire to be a good, caring person who would walk through this life striving for the elegance, the dignity, the kindness, and the goodness that my mom displayed throughout her life. Elle was not a particular wealthy or famous person as far as money goes, but what she had was more important than that. In my eyes, and judging from the countless texts, emails, and phone calls that I have received over the past few days expressing a deep and genuine sorrow over her passing, Elle was a very unique and endearing woman who, through a warm and loving smile, had that certain ability to show all she met a love, an understanding, an acceptance of who they were as a person. She was a mom who always made me feel safe, always well fed with the best of cooking and baking, especially the baking. We are also familiar with her culinary talents, and you've all talked about it, but that won't stop me from also talking a little bit about it. I'm sure it's not hard to think about your favorite Elle dish, whether it be her prime rib, her briskets, her tri-tips, her famous kugels, which, by the way, she sold to several West Side markets as part of a business she established after she divorced Dad. I would often help her make her delicious chicken matzo ball soup for our family Passover and Rosh Hashanah dinners. I would marvel at the way she would clean and gently pat dry each chicken with such tender, loving care. I felt it was Elle's way of telling the chicken, "All right now, make me the most flavorful soup you can." Her desserts were also wonderful. Her chocolate chip cakes, her pies, her muffins with the Reese's chocolate in them. Certainly, Iris and I still talk about the very special birthday cake she made for us and decorated so artfully during our childhood years and beyond. Whenever Iris and I had friends over, she made sure they too were well taken care of with lots of love and great food. And of course, they loved to come over to our welcoming home. That included our rather large family, who down through the years Elle loved to entertain, especially her kids, her grandkids, her great-grandkids, and all that, and her extended family and their kids as well. Eleanor Dorin was born Eleanor Beverly Backrack into a middle-class family in Houston, Texas, in February of 1924. Her parents, Anna and Phil, and her sister Dorothy and brother Charles, shared a really cool home in Houston, one I was lucky enough to visit at around age 4, when Elle took Iris and me on a train trip from Los Angeles to Houston in the summer of 1951. From what I was told by Elle on many occasions over the years was how I kept her and all the stewards on that train pretty busy, chasing me around for a 3-day trip. Elle told me once we arrived at Grandma Anna's house, I wasn't much better. As Elle told me, every afternoon she would have to deliver the neighbor's mail back to them because I would go up and down the street following the mailman and collect all the mail and take it to Grandma Anna's house. But what I remember most at that age is sitting on the large screen front porch in the hot and humid Houston nights and just having fun times with my grandparents and of course Elle and my Uncle Charles, who was in his late teens at that time. As I was writing this tribute to Elle, it got me thinking that maybe the everlasting image and memory of that big porch is what drove me to design and build so many homes with large front porches in the houses I built over the years. Among Elle's favorite stories about her childhood in Houston was that one that involved her and her sister Dorothy hopping off and on the local trains that ran near her home. When we think of Elle, we don't often think of her riding the rails, but she definitely was somewhat of a tomboy growing up. Mom met Dad at a local dance for Army servicemen when she was 18, and within a couple of years, she and Dad married in Chicago. Dad went AWOL to come home and marry Elle, and upon returning home after the war, they moved to California and made a small, sleepy beach community called Santa Monica their home in a small 1,100 square foot house on 23rd Street. That is where Iris and I grew up and shared so many wonderful memories of Elle in that house. And just know this, they all included family gatherings, neighborhood and school events, relatives from all over the country staying with us when they came out for an occasion or a summer visit. Our next door neighbor, Dorothy, became Elle's best friend, which they remained for well over 60 years until Dorothy's passing a couple years ago. Elle had many wonderful friends, through the years outliving all of them except her dear friend Millie, who up to a couple months ago she talked to every day around 4 p.m. Elle was definitely a creature of habit and routine, something I believe served her well over these almost 97 years. One thing about Elle, she adapted to all situations very easily, and she was an incredibly accepting and loving person to all she met. When she first met Gail, Elle told me she was a keeper. She loved Gail as a daughter and was very close to Gail's parents, Bernie and Claire, and their family. Even after Gail's passing, she remained very close to Bernie and his family. She considered them her family, and so it remains to this day. A few years after Gail died, I brought Diane into the family, and Elle immediately felt a special bond toward Diane and her kids, and just felt blessed that she gained another daughter and 2 more grandkids, Danielle and Keith, and later Tal. And when Diane and I were blessed with 2 beautiful granddaughters, Ava and Bella, Elle became Grandma Elle to them as well. She loved when I would come over and show her on my phone videos of their dance recitals, birthday parties, Halloween costumes, whatever the occasion, her face would light up with that magic smile. Elle loved being surrounded by all the families and many friends that came into her life over the years, especially seeing them at our annual Dorin Hanukkah party. The last one she attended in December of 2019, I will always remember the picture of all the children, the grandchildren, and the great-grandchildren, all this beautiful extended family, all gathered around a proud and grateful Elle with that warm, wonderful, loving smile she had on her face that evening. Elle loved all the kids, but certainly had a special place in her heart for her own children, Iris and me, her grandkids, Stephanie and Rob and Greg, Ryan, Dennis and Tracy, Danielle, Keith and Tal, and of course her beautiful great-grandchildren, Jordan, Jalen, Ava, and Bella. Her love and devotion to us was certainly noticed by her wonderful caregivers at the assisted living home she was in the last few years of her life. They all remarked to Iris and I how lucky we were, or how lucky Elle was, excuse me, and well, we were lucky too, was to have so many of her family and friends visiting all the time. When she could no longer come to our parties, we brought our parties to her and celebrated holidays and birthdays in her assisted living home. She was a lady who gave so much, and deservedly so, got so much from all of us in return. Even in the days of her passing, we were all able to visit, say our goodbyes, knowing she could hear us and be at peace with it all. Elle was not just my mom, but also a great friend I could confide in over the years, and other than our political conversations, I always listened to her wise advice. Speaking of politics, that is the one area I treaded lightly with Elle. Even after what I consider to be a thoughtful and persuasive presenting of the facts, as fair and balanced as I could make them, she would still stick to her views, gave me that familiar refrain in a somewhat agitated voice, "Oh, Harlan, you know what they say," and she would proceed to tell me what they said. "They say" was her favorite saying when she wanted to make a point. I heard that phrase from when I was 3 years old till I was 73 years old. And "oh, Harlan, you know, they say," and I never got tired of hearing it. I must confess, I never was able to get her to tell me who they were. It was extremely frustrating at times, but I came to find those words so endearing to the story of Elle. I loved those conversations, even though they never came to a conclusion. I will miss them. My mom was such a remarkable, warm, and loving mom. I will miss her terribly, and to my kids, my wife Diane, my sister Iris, and all the grandkids and great-grandkids, and relatives and friends who today are feeling such a huge loss in their lives, just know how lucky we all were to have this lady to share our lives with for so many years, so many good times, and now so many beautiful memories. We will always carry that with us throughout our lives. Thank you, Mom, for all the unconditional love and support you gave me, my family, and all our families. You will forever be in our hearts. I will forever be grateful that I was blessed to have you, Elle, as my mom.
Wonderful tributes, and I'm sure they're deserved, and if we had a couple more hours before sunset, we could continue on. But that's what you really say about a life that's well lived, and a life that was full of love and was not self-centered. And I think that's a beautiful way for her to be described by all of you in so many inspiring and mouth-watering and delicious ways. Let me share with you some prose, and maybe this is what Eleanor would say to you. To those I loved, and to those who love me, when I'm gone, release me, let me go. There are many more things I'd love to say and do. Don't tie yourself to me with tears. Just be wonderful and grateful I had so many wonderful, wonderful years. I gave you my love. You can only guess how much I received from my family and happiness. And now I must go this way alone. And when you must come this way, I'll greet you with a smile, open arms, and a welcome home. Zecher Tzadik Levracha, her memory is a blessing, and may you continue her best attributes, her wonderful, warming, and caring ways in your own lives. El Malei Rachamim Shochem Bamromim Hamtzei Minucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei HaShechina Lishma Shalcha L'Olamo Val Rachamim Yitzor B'Tzor Chaim Metish Matar Nechonata Vaynua B'Shalom V'Namar Amen. O God, who is full of compassion, dwells on high, grant perfect rest unto Eleanor, who is departed from this world. Lord of mercy, bring her into your presence. Let her soul be bound up in the bond of eternal life. Be thy possession. May her repose always be one of peace. Death has summoned your beloved El. Your souls cry out, what are women? Are they just creatures of dust who return back to the dust from where they came? Our ancient Jewish sages said that the spirit of each and every person is like the light or the lamp of God. And not even with Eleanor's passing will extinguish the love, the light, and the warmth that she shared with so many of you. May God grant you the strength of all generations of our people. In the face of bereavement, have always said, Adonai natan v'nai lekach, Yehi shemanu mevarach. The Lord has given, the Lord has taken away. But for the gift of her life, for the quality of her years, for the depths of her relationships, we say, may God's name be blessed now and forevermore. I'd like to have those who have the Kriya ribbons to please rise. And this is an ancient custom that is based upon the idea that the fabric of your life is torn with Eleanor's passing, but more importantly, when a good garment gets torn, you can throw it away like a shmata, or you can reweave it. And the idea is to reweave the fabric of your life with the strong threads your mother has shared with you, with your children, and your children's children. I'd like to ask the rest of you to please rise as well. The mourner's Kaddish has been often referred to as a prayer for the dead, but we don't pray for dead people, we pray for living people, that they may have the strength and courage of those who have gone before them. And so that's what we want to say today, is that you are grateful for your lives. We're grateful for the sun, the moon, the stars. And now we have the hummingbirds here, and it speaks about peace and tranquility. And we hope that the sounds of the birds is the overriding sounds that you hear. And the sound of the freeway, well, that's where all of you got to go pretty soon to start going and doing and schlepping. So we hope and pray that the mourner's Kaddish will remind you that life is a gift given to our temporary keeping, and the greatest tribute to Eleanor is to lead a life that is a blessing. And even though you might not make the same chocolate chip cake, and your matzah balls might be sinkers, not floaters, it doesn't matter. You tried, and you took the best recipes of life and of the kitchen and integrated them into your heart. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah v'yalmad divra krutei v'yamlik malchutei v'chayachon v'yamachon v'chayid kol beit Yisrael b'agalav yizman kariv imrameim Yehei shemei rabbah mivarach le'olam u'mayeh al-mayah Yisbarach yishtabach v'yipar v'yiraman v'yitnaseh v'yishadar v'yishalel v'yishalel shmei kodesh abrichu le'ila min kol berchata v'shurata tushbahata v'namata damiran v'yalmah V'imru amen. Yehei shlomo rabba min shemai v'chaim. Aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Mosei shalom b'mramav hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'imru amen. The departed whom we now remember, Eleanor Dorin, has entered the peace of life eternal. Though vanished from your bodily sight, she does not cease to be. She abides in the shadow of the Most High and lives on in your hearts and in your minds and in your RNA and DNA. May that inspire you to be more than you are and to be more of what you can be. Adonai Oz Yitain. Thank you, God, for the gift of her life, and thank you, family, for knowing that her life indeed was a gift. Amen.
Thank you, Rabbi Lackman. This concludes the service, everyone.